Hey everyone, Joe Fox here, President at Growave. Welcome to another episode of Retain, Grow, Thrive. Super excited today. I have a very cool guest for you. Matthew has a very illustrious background in a lot of different things. He doesn't like the term CRO, so we're going to dive into that a little bit as well. But he's been featured in a ton of really cool publications. So Forbes, Inc., Business, Entrepreneur Magazine, HuffPost. And he is the founder and owner of Build, Grow, and Scale. Today, he's going to dive into his framework, what helps businesses. And yeah, so I'm super excited to have Matthew on. Matt, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. So, would you be able to give, I mean, I obviously gave you a, really quick summary there, but just for the audience, being that this is a lot of Growwave customers who are in e-commerce, particularly in Shopify, a lot of businesses that are really looking to scale and grow. Are you able to kind of just give me a little bit of a background and how you got into where you are today?
Yeah, so I'll do a quick Cliff Notes version. I actually had a commercial concrete business for 23 years. I grew it to the point where I was traveling around the country. I was on the road about 200 days a year. I went
Wow.
to a Tony Robbins event, and he was selling a program called Money Masters. And what it was once a month they would send you a DVD and a booklet about people selling stuff online. And to that point, this is 15 years ago. I was just using my computer for email and blueprints and sending proposals. Never even thought about e-commerce or selling stuff online. But then these people were selling stuff online and they were talking about remote work, and I'm like, wow, I instead of having 25 employees and a couple $1 million worth of equipment, I could work from my computer anywhere and I don't have to travel every week. So I started digging into it, and I did SEO first, didn't enjoy it. Ended up finding a site called Teespring, which is where you would create a design for a T-shirt, you'd put it on there, and you run ads to it. And depending on how many you sold, they would give you a discount on printing, shipping, and fulfilling it. So I could do that from the road at night. I would literally come up with designs, put them on T-shirts, start some ads, and then monitor that. And the first 3 years, I ended up doing about $15 million in T-shirt sales. And I was like,
Wow.
okay, this is awesome. I'm going to sell the concrete business and get into e-commerce full time. And so about 5 years from the time that I went to the Tony Robbins event to the time that I sold all the brick and mortar, and I had a couple of salons, etc., and went into online 100%. From there, I opened a Shopify site, started selling kitchen products, and I partnered with the founder of BGS, who we partnered and then grew it into the agency that it is today, where we work with big brands and we help them with their revenue optimization. And we call it revenue optimization just from the simple fact that if you call it CRO or conversion rate optimization, essentially that's a vanity metric. I can raise your conversion
Yes.
rate by offering a sale or
Yep.
only sending warm traffic. I can do a lot of different things to manipulate that. What we really care about is that the business works very good from when the customer lands on the website till they give you money. And as long
Yep.
as we operate on that aspect of it, your net profit ends up being way better. Because if you do 10 million, but it costs you 9.8 to do it, you're just adding to your ego. If you do 10 million and it only costs you 8 million to do it, now you made 2 million. That's a lot better. That's a lot more exciting. It's what we take home at night.
I love that. And I mean, what a journey. Like that's such a cool story. And the fact I really love the fact I love it when there's like people that come on and guests that come on that are absolute hustlers. And I can really tell, from that mindset of like doing what you were doing during the day and having a relatively successful business in that space, but then making that mindset shift to say, hey, I want to be able to create a lifestyle business for myself. Really want to dive, into this e-commerce space with both feet and, grinding away at night to make that happen. And I think what's really cool, and I'm sure you find this with your clients, Matthew, is that a lot of them kind of sit there and say, well, this is someone who's actually done it and they've been doing it for a very long time. So that's super cool. What do you find? You touched on it a little bit there. Vanity metrics. I know vanity metrics is something that come up a lot in e-commerce, and it's something I talk about a lot with our guests. There are so many vanity metrics out there. Conversion rate is definitely one of them. I think you touched on a very
Attri-
good point around, oh,
I
sorry,
think,
attribution.
yeah,
Yes,
because
I was going to
everybody
ask you that.
claims they're the one that drove the revenue. So if you actually made as much money as every app said that you were collecting, based according to them, you would be about three times your volume of your store.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You answered that one perfectly. And also, I'd love to know. So, let's say there's a merchant on here who's watching, this episode, and they're kind of sitting there saying, are my metrics that my agency giving me correct? Are the metrics that I'm seeing on the background vanity metrics? What are the three metrics that you think that, customers should really actually focus on?
Uh, I would say revenue per visitor.
Yep,
If that's consistently climbing, that means that your website experience is getting better and it's creating more value.
yep,
Obviously, you're going to need to know. Um, it's not one number, but essentially what your add to cart is compared to your average order value, because that will tell you how your product page or your education is working. Then
yep.
from your product page to your add to cart, uh, that's the first one. And then from add to cart to proceed to checkout will tell you how well your cart's working, and then completing it so that your checkout. We always do something, and once I explain this, it'll make a lot of sense. But most business owners come to us, and the very first thing they want to do is work on their homepage. I
Mm,
convince them, let's start on your checkout so that then, and we'll move backwards from there to your cart, then to your product page, then to your categories, then to your homepage. Because if I fix your homepage and it starts converting better, a conversion on the homepage means that they used the main menu navigation or clicked on a category and moved to another page. It didn't make you more money yet. If I go to your checkout and fix your checkout, now that's converting higher. You're making more money from day one. Then if
yes.
I go to your cart and make that work better, that means more people are going into the optimized checkout. You make even more money. And then if I go backwards to your product page, get more people to add to cart. So now every step that we do is actually adding money instead of having three steps that are all optimized before it's actually generating more revenue. So always start from the back and move forward. And then that way it gives you more money so that you have a longer runway to figure things out and get stuff done so that you have a much better chance of success.
I love that. That's such a valuable takeaway for our audience. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I
Yep.
agree 100%. In my prior sort of SaaS roles, Matthew, I worked at a company called Fast, and the whole thing was about really making the checkout experience as fast as possible. And we were meant to be the first one-click sort of checkout providers. And I agree. I think that time and ease and that actual checkout experience needs to be so quick now because people's attention span is shrinking and shrinking. And if you can't capture that sale as quick as possible, it's nearly impossible. And I think, things like Shop Pay have really enabled, customers to be able to do that as quick as possible. Um, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And tell me a little bit more, like you've given a really, really clear outline of that working backwards from the checkout process. But typically, what does it look like? Say, for example, a Growave customer who's watching this today wants to work with you, wants to work with the team, wants to really, step up their e-commerce journey and their e-commerce game. What's the typical process that you run through with them? What does it look like? Say, for example, if they contacted you, how does that sort of time frame look from there?
Yeah, so essentially, I want to do an audit because I think that websites are contextual. People behave different uh, based off of what demographic they're in. And so, assuming that everybody acts the same is only going to capture a very small, minute portion of the audience. So, first, we'll
Yep.
do the audit, figure out who their competitors are, and then do a deep dive into that. We'll also make sure that all of their data is accurate. It's really shocking to me because we're very data driven. It's really shocking to me how many stores that do a large volume really don't know where their numbers come or what's working and what's not working. And by the time they get to us, they're like, "Man, it we should be doing way better, but we just don't understand." And when we can deep dive into accurate data, it's really easy to start problem solving and cleaning up the little levers that create that growth that they're looking for. I'm going to share one tip with you that anybody in your audience can use, and it's responsible for probably 6 of our 10 biggest wins of all time for the last
Oh,
10
wow.
years. Millions and millions of dollars worth of hundred, maybe $100 million worth of revenue. On the thank you page after somebody buys, we put a little pop up and it asks a question. And the question is, what was the one thing that almost made you not buy? And by asking that, the person who just gave you money now will tell you what was the thing that almost kept them from buying, or what they didn't understand, or what they felt was not clear, or what was a friction point. And then we use the information from those surveys and we go back and we clean those up, and always it generates a lot more revenue. So it's a way to take the guesswork out. It's an actual customer that just gave you money and they just were on your site. If they want to see you win, they give you exactly what the problem was, and you go back and fix it. You'll make more money.
I love that. Thank you so much. You're giving away so much to the
Yeah,
to our audience. I'm really, really
yeah,
grateful, Matthew. Thank you. Thank you so
yeah,
much for that. And I do see a lot of top performing sites do that. And I think it's so true because the interesting thing, that we find at Growwave is once you impress a customer or you generate a customer, and I'm sure you find this, it's so much easier to get another sale or to get feedback or to get content or to get something out of a loyal customer versus trying to get something out of someone who hasn't converted at all or trying to generate, a whole bunch of new customers. So I think being able to provide that, we have a lot of like feedback and survey tools with Growwave that I think are really powerful for that. So I really, really love that. And Matthew, I'd love to dive in a little bit more kind of, you know, you're obviously a very revolutionary person in this e-commerce space. You've had a ton of experience in this. You've been in the e-com space for a very long time. You've obviously worked on the brand side. You've worked on the agency side. I'd love to gain your insights into what you think is coming in 2026 for e-commerce. What are some of the big changes we're going to see in the Shopify ecosystem and the e-commerce ecosystem in general?
yeah. I strongly believe that the agentic engine optimization (AEO) is going to be the biggest, have the most impact of anything that I've seen since I've been in e-commerce.
Oh,
And
wow.
I've been in e-commerce for about 15 years, so since 2010. SEO came out in 2004, 2002, 2004, and kind of created a self-fulfilling prophecy. You rank good, you get more sales, you have more customers, you rank good, and it kind of drove up that. And so these legacy brands all worked very hard on SEO to dominate their markets, and the small guys couldn't compete. The very cool thing about these LLMs that are recommending people is that they convert when the LLM recommends them. They convert about 5 times the average of a Google click. So,
Wow.
and the other thing is right now in the last 12 months, we've seen about 56 to 60% of Google searches result in no click. So
Mm.
Google, the way Google was serving the information, uh, wasn't working anymore. And so now these LLMs have taken so much of the organic traffic, and when they make a recommendation, most of the people that ask inside of an LLM, they have this relationship with whichever one they use, and it's almost like it's a trusted advisor because they're sharing things about themselves, they're sharing things about their business, stuff like that, and it learns and memorizes that. So now when it recommends back to them, it feels like a almost like a warm lead to them. And so they go buy it and it converts really high. So I think getting your site set up and operating in a way that those LLMs can crawl it and then use your information to make recommendations is going to make a huge difference because even the little guys can now get that, you know, past the legacy SEO people.
Yeah, I love that. And it's such an interesting thing to think about, even stepping out from an e-commerce perspective for just a second. It's interesting. It's almost like that the relationship with the LLM is almost like getting a recommendation from a trusted friend, trusted
Yeah,
advisor. It's like the ultimate kind of word of mouth now, but it's powered through technology. And I mean, that sort of click through rate, conversion rate that you kind of mentioned is staggering. I mean, I think if we went back to 2003 and told SEO people that that could be what the future looks like, that they wouldn't believe us. But yeah, that's fascinating, and I think that's really powerful. Do you think that from a LLM perspective, obviously Shopify has a really strong partnership with ChatGPT and
yep.
OpenAI and those sorts of things. Do you feel that that's where brands are best focusing on their optimization, or would you suggest that they kind of spread out that, I guess, budget or spread out their efforts to optimize across multiple LLMs?
Uh, that's a good question. What I think is we've seen because we deal with a lot of very large brands. We've seen about 30% of their organic traffic fall off. So they're
Oh,
all
yeah.
and organic traffic typically is high converting and worth pretty good because it's a direct search or um, comes right to them based off of what they typed in. We're not seeing that now. So I believe capturing that through the LLM, which is going to convert even higher, is probably one of the bigger levers because it's going to be very, very profitable traffic, even though the volume of it won't be as high right now.
Mm, mm. Yeah, so it may not be higher amounts of traffic, but it's going to convert a lot higher, which is in turn going to create more revenue and everything like that. And I'm assuming too, it's more profitable revenue, right? Like it
100%,
because
because that's the one
it's
the
more
cost of
qualified.
acquisition is not there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And do you find because of that that a lot of your merchants are kind of saying calling you up and saying, or I'm sure that you're a lot more proactive, but let's say for example members of your team are reaching out to merchants and saying, hey, we are seeing this on a large scale across a large scale of our merchants. This is the direction that you need to be pivoting. We can pull some money from your Google spend as an example, really focus on some of this LLM. Is that typically what you're focusing on for merchants at the moment?
Yeah, 100%. I genuinely believe it's probably the biggest thing that we've seen since I've been in e-commerce as far as the transfer of traffic. You know, Google
Wow.
searches are 60% of them result in no click, where a click from an LLM is almost 5 times more likely to convert. So it's going to
Wow.
take 1/5 of the traffic to equal the same amount of revenue as it used to. So now if you can go in there and dominate that traffic, because a lot of people aren't even thinking about how to do that, you can take the lion's share of this organic traffic that's disappeared.
Wow. That's I'm kind of blown away by those statistics, to be honest. I mean, I understand that from a logical perspective, but that is massive and it makes so much sense. And I think Yeah, this is incredibly powerful for our audience. Matthew, you've given so much value today, so I just want to be thankful for, for your time initially, and I just have a couple more things that I'd love to dive into, predominantly for the benefit of the audience, but also for curiosity for myself. So, what do you think? We've spoken about, you obviously work with a lot of larger brands. We've spoken about kind of what medium brands should be doing when they're looking at shifting and adjusting budgets, working backwards from checkout all the way to homepage. Um, the curiosity that I'd love to kind of dive in now is, if you were, say, an entrepreneurial person, you were just getting into the Shopify ecosystem, you wanted to start your e-com journey, what is the top thing that you would have that person focus on?
And I
Broad
think that,
question, I know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I
And I want to
apologize for
give
the
a
broadness.
I want to give a really good answer. I think this is probably not what you would expect from me, but because I deal with so many entrepreneurs, I'll tell you what makes the biggest difference. It isn't just website optimization, isn't just data and analytics. What matters is the business owner being coachable and having the proper mindset. Because every single time that we coach the business owner and upgrade their mindset, the entire company does better. So we are all, I believe, as the owners, we're all our bottleneck in our company. And so what I would say is be coachable. The moment that you think you know what's right and wrong, you stop looking for a better answer. And so be open to, this is the lie that I tell myself right now so that your mind will accept there's other opportunities or there's other ways to view it, because that's going to allow you to grow much faster. I can clean up your website, but if you still believe that your value is only, $1 million a month site or $2 million a month site, you're not going to surpass that until your mindset shifts.
I love that. And that is almost full circle to what we spoke about with how you moved into e-commerce, with that, with obviously Tony Robbins and the removing limiting beliefs and all of those sorts of things. So I love that. What a way to come full circle. Matthew, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I know our audience are absolutely going to love this episode. This has been one of my favorites to date. Matthew, where can the audience connect with you, get more information? Here, you've been across a lot of publications. You speak incredibly well. There's obviously a lot of content that you've put out. Where can people best connect with you, particularly merchants who are looking to, step into a better 2026, looking to change their mindset, all of those things, and potentially even engage you for your services?
Yeah, our website is buildgrowscale.com, and my email is matt@buildgrowscale.com. So you can go on our website, you can book a call with me, or you can just send me an email. I would be happy to jump on and kind of just do like a heuristic audit with you, talk through it and see if we can provide some value, or at least I've been in the industry long enough, I can point you in the right direction and get you connected with someone that would matter.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Matthew. I'll make sure all of that's linked below in the show notes. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of emails from this, so I apologize in advance from that, but it's a very kind offer, and I'm very grateful on behalf of Growave, and our audience that you would offer that. Thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I'm really, really excited to continue to follow your journey. I think the insights that you've made, around LLMs and how all of that's going to shift in 2026 is so spot on. My mind is still blown by those statistics. So I really, really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for coming on. And I'd really love to have you on for a part two at some stage. I think it'd be really cool for us to revisit and rehash some of this data. And I'm sure our audience are going to get a lot of value out of this episode and a future episode as well. So, Matthew, thank you again. Thank you so much for coming on, and Really, really appreciate your time. And let's see what 2026 brings in terms of LLMs.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed the conversation too.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Cheers.
Bye bye.
Audience, thank you so much for tuning into that episode. That was absolutely fascinating for me. Some of those statistics that were given by Matthew were just absolutely amazing. I am so excited for where everything is heading in e-commerce in 2026. As you saw, Matthew gave a lot of free value in this episode. So I really encourage you to connect with him. If you're unsure of, what you should be doing, you want to look at making sure that your conversion pathways are done correctly and that your website is performing in the way that it should, and your checkouts and all of that good stuff that Matthew had to talk about. Please check out the show links below, and you'll be able to reach out to him directly and have a conversation about that. But thank you for tuning in to another episode. 2026 is going to be a very, very exciting year for everyone in e-commerce. So thank you from everyone here at Growave. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Retain, Grow, Thrive. I'm your host, Joe Fox, and I'll talk to you soon.